come to the top award for the evening for ICIT, and this is our Pioneer Award. This year's award recipient is someone that I think the majority of this room will recognize the contributions over, the private sector, the public sector, and continues today through philanthropic and continuing to lead the next generation. But a little bit about the award. ICIT's Pioneer Award is reserved for a leader whose lifetime of public service has strengthened cybersecurity and national security and helped shape the nation as it approaches both. This year's Pioneer Award is Ron Gula, president of Gula Tech Adventures. Ron is a pioneer cybersecurity entrepreneur and leader whose work has shaped the field for decades. Ron joins a distinguished group of leaders who helped define modern cybersecurity and national security. Ron will be formally introduced and presented this award by last year's Pioneer Award recipient, the Honorable Chris Inglis, Strategic Advisor at Paladin Capital, former Deputy Director of the National Security Agency, and our nation's first National Cyber Director. But before Chris takes the stage, we pause for a moment that is unique to this award. The Pioneer Award recognizes leadership that didn't just advance a career, launch a company, it helped establish the ground upon which the rest of us now stand. As a result, the award begins with an induction address that reflects on what it means to build with foresight, responsibility, and enduring commitment. It is fitting that the reflection comes from someone who understands that kind of leadership firsthand. Please join me in welcoming back to the stage Ms. Lecea for an introduction address for this year's ICIT Pioneer Award.
I was just getting used to Linda. Bill, I want you to call me Linda from now on. Okay. Good evening again. I promise I'm going to be brief, but this moment is really worth making and marking. The term pioneer is often used in our community. At its core, it means someone who built what others depend on, someone who strengthened the ground so those who follow can go farther and do that confidently. This is why ICIT's Pioneer Award is significant. It recognizes a lifetime of service that has shaped how we think about cybersecurity, critical infrastructure, and national resilience, as responsibilities tied directly to people, institutions, and trust. Pioneers anticipate what's coming and invest early in people, ideas, and institutions. They build capacity that lasts, and they do it in ways that raise the standard for everyone who follows. Across government and industry, we all benefit from leaders who saw what was ahead and chose to build thoughtfully, rigorously, and with a long-term view of public service. Tonight's honoree exemplifies that standard. His work has helped define the field many of us work in today, and it continues to influence how this community prepares for what lies ahead. It's now my privilege to pass this moment to someone who understands that kind of leadership firsthand and who brings his own impressive legacy of service to the stage. Please join me in welcoming last year's Pioneer Award recipient, the Honorable Chris Inglis, former and our nation's first National Cyber Director. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. It's true, you can't see a soul out there, so hopefully you're all still there. It is such a delight to be back with you again, and this rental doesn't end until midnight, so I might take a few more minutes. I actually wanted to frame my remarks in two ways. One, to first talk about ICIT, which has brought us all to this magical place. I was asked earlier in front of the camera, what does ICIT mean to me? And three words immediately leapt to mind. The first was passion, right? You just look around the room, you see that passion. You see that everyone's so engaged and so passionate about what they do that they attempt to make a difference in that every day. Param, in his initial charge to us this evening, I think, drew forth a quote that I have loved across my career. It was from Edmund Burke. About 250 years ago, he said, the great tragedy in life is doing nothing because you can only do a little. If you do a little every minute, every hour, every day, every year, it adds up, right? It's compound interest. The second word that sprung to mind was competence, deep competence. Everyone in the room brings something to the table that's just enormously valuable, enormously competent. But the third word that leapt to my mind, dare I say it, was the word diversity. That we bring this incredibly rich set of disciplines, perspectives, authorities, experience that makes a difference in ways that only diversity can. There are introverts in the room. There are extroverts in the room. There are people who understand engineering as their principal lens through which to see the world, who understand how people think and how people act, and that's their principal lens. There are people who have expertise that takes years to develop. All of that comes to bear in trying to make sure that critical infrastructure meets our expectations. That's the end goal. We can talk about cybersecurity, we can talk about the defense of critical infrastructure, but the real raison d'etre is to make sure that critical infrastructure meets our expectations. And that has been ever a shared challenge, and I'm just enormously grateful to ICIT for being a life force in that regard. Second set of remarks, of course, will bear on this year's honoree for the Pioneer Award. Who in the room does not remember when that life force, Ron Gula, first swept into your life? Who does not remember when that kind of came across your path and you thought, how lucky am I? I hope this lasts. I hope that this intersection stays. The good news about Ron Gula is you always get Cindy too, but I'm going to talk about Ron. And I think that the framing of Lecea about kind of looking up what the word pioneer means is very apropos in this regard. Pioneers typically are out front. Pioneers step into the murk. Pioneers help us understand what the opportunities are that lie in that distant fog. And then they hopefully understand what it is to bring us all along, and no one has done that better, in my view, than Ron. Through his early days in the United States Air Force, through his days at the National Security Agency, through his days at Tenable, through his days now at Gula Tech, he's always seen cyberspace for what it is, right? A domain of interest upon which our health, our life, our safety, our aspirations depend, and comprised, if you were to think about the noun of cyberspace, with three constituent pieces. There might be more, but three come immediately to mind. You can see I live my life in the rule of threes. The first being technology, that's the obvious part. My first computer was a slide rule. It still works. I don't know how to work it, but it still works. But that Moore's Law took over in about 1972 when I got that slide rule, and every year since then, we've been bedazzled by the innovation and the market efficiency that's been deployed kind of time and time again, typically on about an annual cycle. And so technology clearly is kind of in the mix. Second, people. People are in this space. People's choices kind of determine what those cyber futures might be. They're not merely vexed by cyberspace or served by cyberspace, they're in cyberspace. We have to consider, how do we prepare them, how do we enable them, how do we properly charge them so that they can play the role that they might play. And then finally, there's this magical word that the military uses called doctrine, the establishment of expectations, roles, responsibilities, so that we understand what each of us, if diversity is in fact a strength, it is, so that we understand what each of us might do to achieve that common aspiration. Across the entirety of his career, if you look at what Ron has done, he's done those three things, and he's done those in the reverse order, because that's the order with which we need to get that right. How do the pieces come together? How do we get people in the right place? And how do we then bend technology to that purpose? I was in a conversation in the conga line tonight with Ron, just talking about things, and never once did the word technology come up. It was all about what he's doing to mentor people, what he's doing to try to put kind of frameworks together so that he might connect and mobilize people to the common aspirations that all of us share in this room. He's been the role model for that from my perspective ever since I first met him, probably 25 years ago. The last thing I'd say about Ron is something that I find remarkable in any human being, but he's done this every time I've met him. We all answer a question every single day. There's a single question that each and every one of us, when we get out of bed and we stride into the light, answers. Very few people ask this question. But the question we kind of answer every day is, what is the purpose of your power? I don't mean statutory power. I don't mean official power. I don't mean the power that's kind of incumbent in the role that you have. But what are you going to do with your time? Ron asks that question every day, and Ron answers that question in a profoundly valuable way every day by understanding that the purpose of power in the best of conditions is to use it for the benefit of those who need it, the benefit of those who gave it to you, the benefit of those who made it possible for you to have that in the first place. So the thing I respect most of all, of the many things I respect about Ron, is the role model he has set for me and so many others about the use of that power, personal power. It's therefore with great pleasure that I'm able to present to Ron Gula this year's Pioneer Award from ICIT. Ron.
When you get to meet your heroes and your heroes say they inspire them, I mean, I'm just done. That's emotional. And you're right, you can't really see anybody, which is good. So look, I gotta thank the best person in my life, my wife, Cindy Gula. We're both from upstate New York. Didn't really know what the National Security Agency was or anything like that. I did use the line, I can tell you what I do, but I have to kill you. And she still said yes to getting married. But she said yes to, while we were starting a family, starting Network Security Wizards. She said yes, we should probably go ahead and start Tenable. Didn't get the credit for that, but definitely appreciate that, a lot of support there. And you're gonna see she's woven into a lot of the success that we've had where we've been able to inspire other people. Now, of course, I appreciate my time at the National Security Agency, but I didn't really make the impact I had there, or I had outside with Tenable there. So look, Tenable Network Security. I think a lot of people know what that is. I gotta thank anybody who was a customer. I thank anybody who was there, specifically Jack Hufford and Renaud Darrison, my co-founders. In many ways, Tenable, we were apologizing for the work we did at Network Security Wizards, where we were detecting the hackers. We wanted to help people protect their systems. And can I get a hear for Amit Yaran? All right, he did a great job. We miss him. But a lot of people will ask, Ron, what can you tell us about the future of vulnerabilities based on all your time at Tenable? I'm gonna tell you that the human mind has a tremendous capacity to come up with reasons to ignore those vulnerabilities, right? And that's really kind of where we're going. So when we left Tenable, we started Gula Tech Adventures and the Gula Tech Foundation, and we were kind of on the Tenable apology tour, where we wanted to be a role model and inspire people to get into cyber, start cyber companies and do that. So my view of cyber right now is a little bit interesting. First of all, it's no surprise the general public has no idea what cybersecurity is. So one of the things that Cindy came up with was this concept of data care, trying to make data like healthcare and really inspire people to get into cybersecurity. The second thing we realized, and we were trying to donate to cybersecurity nonprofits, we were trying to donate, invest, whatever you call in the cyber startups, is that we would get pitches from people who were working on cyber and we didn't know what they did. We would read the deck, 30 pages, 40 pages, and we said, look, we gotta make this simple. If you're in cyber, technology is important, I wanna know 5 things. What problem do you solve? How do you solve it? Give me some proof. What's your ask? And then finally, what's your vision of success? You would be surprised how many nonprofits and how many startups can only answer 2 or 3 of those questions. And I've had a lot of people come to us and say, look, you know, I'm using that in my daily life and how I pitch products and that sort of thing. If you're getting pitches from vendors and you're on the buying end, tell them to do the 5-slide pitch deck. It saves, you can get to know fast and it's really good. But from all of that, we still wanted to do this outreach. And I got a little bit involved with artificial intelligence. I said, why not have a YouTube channel? Why not do some social media, interview some folks? I've had some guests here, Brian, Andy Boyd, they've been on the show and whatnot. But I really got into artificial intelligence when artificial intelligence was getting really big. One of the companies we invested in asked me about DeepSeek. Hey, we're using this thing from China, is it safe? So this was really kind of interesting. And the more we started doing with AI, the more we started doing some interesting things. I created a virtual version of Ron Gula. I had the virtual version of Ron Gula interview Rob Joyce. I put this stuff on the internet. people start complaining about we're burning up the carbon, right? We're eating up the oxygen in the water, right? I also created AIs that did cybersecurity humor. I had people come to me and basically say, Ron, I want to hire you to write jokes for me, stuff that I had the AI write, and stuff that I hand animated, people called AI slop, which is my second point. The general public does not understand artificial intelligence. So where does that leave us? Where does that leave us as cyber professionals? Well, look, I have 3 different types of advice depending on where you're at. If you have a child, a student, somebody who's going into cybersecurity, it's hard for them. We probably all have decks of resumes of kids who are looking for their first cyber job. That's gonna get harder, right? Because AI is taking a lot of those entry-level jobs. Those people need to learn AI, right? That's an obvious type of thing. The second thing, if you're a cybersecurity startup, you have to be phenomenal. It used to be marketing, better, faster, cheaper, pick 2, and that's my startup. Now, you have to do something that transforms what's going on out there, because basically everything is a platform. Tenable, CrowdStrike, Zscaler, they all do the things, right? So if you're gonna innovate and protect the country with technology, it's gotta be something really, really good. And then lastly though, if you're a chief information security officer, if you're not gonna move and be in charge of AI for your organization, you're probably gonna get replaced by AI. And that's the kind of reality of where we're going. Us as technologists, we are gonna come up with a platform that automates our defenses, allows you to twig the risk model and stuff like that, and let us sleep well at night. That's a world that's a lot different than where we're at now. But lastly, thank you so much, Corey. ICIT, I mean, Cindy and I have spent a lot of time with different nonprofits and different people doing policy and research and stuff like that. It's very, very important because cyber is really an invisible thing for the general public. So all the work you guys do, I definitely really, really appreciate it. I definitely really appreciate the recognition. We're very humble. We're trying to inspire a lot of people. I hope this inspires more people to get into cyber, protect AI, and protect the country. Thank you very much. Yeah.